Griffin-Braaf, founder and CEO of Tech Valley Shuttle in Albany, New York. We honored you earlier this year as a social capital CEO because you are such an incredible example of someone that sees people as the point of profit. You take care of your customers, your employees, and people in your community in some pretty powerful and amazing ways, that we're going to talk about. Plus, you just have a really incredible story of how you came to realize that you needed to do that and to be that. So, first of all, thanks for doing
Right.
what you do, and thanks for being here.
No, thanks for having me, Chris. I've been looking forward to this for some time.
So, first of all, let's talk a little bit about what your company does for customers that makes it so special, and the way you do it. So, what is your business, and what do you do?
So so what I was awarded for is in partnership with Tech Valley Shuttle. I'm the founder of Tech Valley Shuttle, and we are a community-based transportation supplier, meaning we offer services that uplift individuals who lack transportation options. So ultimately, our whole mission is to combat poverty through transportation, and so we do services like address food insecurity, but we do it in unique ways. Like we rescue 25,000 pounds of food 5 days a week, and then we reposition it
Wow.
to food banks in our area. In addition to that, we become known for a program called Driven to Work, where we actually work with employers and municipalities, and we get people to and from work every single day where transportation tends to be a barrier. Um, you know, and then another thing that we become well known for is reducing recidivism through transportation. And so we actually provide free community based shuttles at least 4 times a year to help individuals get visits who are incarcerated throughout New York State, because visits actually help reduce the rate of return by 12% with each visit someone gets. And then lastly, I would say we do non emergency medical transportation. But we take a unique lens, in which case we actually partner with different nonprofits. And so one of our biggest partnerships is with CBHN, Capital Behavioral Health
Hmm.
Network, in which case we are helping people in addiction or in recovery, excuse me, who have addiction issues. We help them. And through that grant, we're able to provide free non emergency medical transportation for individuals. And we're expanding it. It's not just for doctors or going to doctor's appointments. We actually get people to and from work through it. We actually get people to and from school through it. We actually get people to and from court, pick individuals up from
Wow.
incarceration, just expanding the whole lens of what non-emergency transportation looks like. And so that, in a quick nutshell, is Tech Valley Shuttle, and that's some of the work that we're doing.
So that's brilliant and incredible. From a business point of view alone, one of the things that we focus on, we do a feature every year about, is for-profit companies that solve a lot of problems that maybe, previously had only been thought could be addressed with nonprofits. And,
Hmm.
the for-profit model drives you a little bit more. You've got that impetus that's there a little bit more. But it takes a little bit of thought to figure out how to intermingle that. And
Mm.
you've obviously done the thinking and figured this out in a pretty extraordinary way to create a business model that serves all these human needs in
Mm.
such powerful ways. So, I mean, kudos to you for doing that. I mean, that just from a strategic point of view, that's absolutely brilliant. From a human point of
Well,
view, it's incredibly laudable.
thank you, Chris. And I wish I could say that it was this genius plan that I came up with. But in all reality, being someone who, doesn't come from business, I served a 12-year prison sentence myself as a youth. And so very limited work experience. It was really came back to the premise of business and just solving a need in the market. And in doing so, because we originally started as a hotel-based transportation company, because that was the only world I knew following incarceration.
Mm,
I started off cleaning toilets and driving a shuttle for a hotel,
wow.
and one day started a shuttle service that was supposed to help hotel goers, and But around 2 years in, we identified the poverty report in the area, and transportation and poverty went hand in hand. And so that was kind of like my aha moment where I thought, maybe we could put a little dent into this. And then as we've got into it, we really got into it. And so so you saying that, I hear all the time people assume we're nonprofits. And I think to your point though, um we have a little bit more a little bit of hunger, because if we
Hmm.
don't hunt, we don't eat in this
Yeah.
space. And so, and so we think outside of the box. We also have the opportunities where we're not limited to, what we said we would do through grants. And it's actually given us a lens to build relationships with employers, which is huge for what we do, but it's even bigger for the people that I help uplift, which I'm sure we'll dive into a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a powerful component, that for-profit motive, just and that drive is such an important part of social capital and part of capitalism. But with the connection, which we believe is a natural connection, it's supposed to be there, of how to help the community, how to serve the needs of the community. Adam Smith, who wrote about the point of capitalism, 150 years ago, talked about how, however selfish man may seem to be, what he desires most is to see the betterment of others. And we
That's
always
right.
try to remind people that that is the point of capitalism, to help people. And, if you help
I agree.
people enough, they're going to help you back by, actually patronizing your business and letting
Yep.
you eat, as you said, um,
That's right. That's right.
but sometimes business people forget that aspect of why we need to serve the community. And you talked a little bit just now about, where you came from. Certainly a very unusual background for, anyone who rises. That's another issue that we can talk about for probably hours. But
That's
the
right.
the 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 idea of where you came from, do, do you think that had a big something to do with why you thought of what the needs of the community are, and how did that drive you to solve that?
Definitely, 100%. I think it was a combination of my lived experience matched with team members that I had and continue to have in their lived experience, and just kind of hearing out their different situations. Like, I've never experienced homelessness, food insecurity, but I've had individuals on the team who have. And just
Mm,
hearing their experiences and the things they went through really shaped my vantage point. And I said, man, no, I never experienced it, but this is a real issue that people are dealing with on a daily. And so then I think naturally I'm a problem solver. I try to encourage everyone I deal with, if you want to be successful in life, just be a problem solver, because life is always going to throw you problems, and then you have to figure out how to solve them. And so I'm a natural problem solver. So when a problem is in front of me, now I'm locked in and I have to try to figure it out. And so the one problem I constantly heard was transportation and childcare was an issue for employers when it came to finding employees. And so that was the first thing that we attacked was, well, how can we get people to and from work? If public transportation isn't working, and I think this is a conversation that goes back to capitalism in a lot of ways and just systematic things. But we know that for the populations we serve, they have been historically displaced and redlined. And so we also understood that they were redlined, individuals have been redlined, and then what was provided was this public transportation that was supposed to support the majority of people who had this experience. And so my thought was, well, if you created the problem, oftentimes you don't create the solution to the problem. And
mm,
so that's why we've seen historically public transportation is good. Some places it's even really good, but ultimately it doesn't solve the issues that are present itself around individuals who can only rely on public transportation, which one of the biggest is access to employment. And so I said, hey, the premise of business is solving a problem. This is a problem.
mhm,
How can we
mhm.
solve it? And then every other problem from there we started to look at it in that lens, and then just said, hey, the worst that could happen is it doesn't work. And the best that could happen is we can help some people. Let's give it a shot.
We need to have you teach a class on business ideas and what makes a good business, because this really is just classic textbook, you know, why to make a business and how to make a business and how to find a business need. So I mean, this is extraordinary what you did and how you're doing it. Um, you said something really interesting about the people that are on your team,
Mhm.
and how some of these people's their interesting backgrounds also kind of clued you in to this need as well. And
Yep.
that speaks to another aspect that we talk a lot about at the Center for Social Capital, which is this inclusive hiring,
Mhm.
opening up your hiring to, a greater net, a bigger net of
Yep.
people. And that sometimes is another challenge right out there. So what you've got an interesting approach, and obviously have had an interesting approach to who you look for and who you hire as well, right?
That's right. So I believe in true diversity. And I don't think diversity is having one female or one person of color in the mix in some way. I believe that diversity looks like having people of all age groups, people of all ethnic backgrounds, people of all social aspects of life, people of all sexual genders and orientations, all of that. That's diversity to me. And so I was focused on making sure that I had a diverse team. And I was focused on that because I identified that the more different perspectives that I had, we would actually be a better organization. And so the approach that I took on initially was just trying to get people in from all sorts of backgrounds, and so I could learn. Maybe some of it was selfish, but so I could learn, and I did learn. But then what I also started to learn was that a lot of these backgrounds, a lot of these individuals, especially underserved or people who tend to be underemployed, are never taught how to be successful in the workplace. And I had to
Mm.
kind of take a look at my own life, right? I became incarcerated at 19. Actually, I put myself in prison. I like to always take full ownership. I put myself in prison at the age of 19 um, for nonviolent narcotic sales. Never had a speeding ticket in my life. Never, was a normal kid, but ended up with this 4 to 12 year prison sentence.
Wow.
Leading up to that, I never had a real job. I was 19, so I might have had a little job here or there. Upon release, I was 23. Now I'm expected to go home, know how to work, and find success in the workplace. Fortunate enough for me, in my support system and through personal development, I was able to go from an entry level job at that Marriott, like I talked about, to becoming a general manager in the space. But I quickly identified that most people don't have the supports to actually do the same. And so that's why we tend to see individuals go from poverty based jobs to poverty based jobs because they're not focused on the personal development aspect of things throughout that time. Oftentimes, you're living in a poverty mindset. So you can't even plan for a week down if you have to figure out, do I pay this bill or do I put food on my table today? And so I had to really start to teach other people how to live in a more vibrant mindset where you expect to win. And that's kind of how I came about with what we call the Roadmap to Success program, in which case we help individuals come in, we listen to what they want to do long term. And even if it's not in transportation, we try to set them up with a path, a clear path on how they get there. And so I've had people on my team who wanted to be construction workers, and they come in, they work with us. We help outline a path to help them get in that space. We work with
Wow.
local EOCs and job enhancement companies, and we actually help them figure out a roadmap. Hey, this individual works for us as a driver, but they want to get in construction. What are some trade? What are some certificates, or are there any trade programs that we could get them into that they could work or do while they're doing the job with us? And I just think it's that kind of approach that's really helped us, one, go back to the loyalty that you talked about with individuals we work with.
Yeah.
If I'm helping you on something that literally has nothing to do with my end game, I think you would look at me and be like, man, how can I help this person too in return? And so we get a lot of that from people we work with. And then oftentimes the other thing is a big portion, 100% of our team is made up of underserved. So we work with veterans, individuals with disabilities, opportunity youth, formerly incarcerated individuals. That's the makeup of our team. And because of that, these are one, all of the populations that most employers struggle with. But two, we identified that through this programming that we put together to help individuals find their roadmaps, I started to see that other employers weren't doing what we were doing. They weren't taking the time to listen to individuals. They weren't investing in their what they wanted to do outside of the organization. It really just was about what can you do for us right now. That was the main thing in exchange for a paycheck. And so now I actually work with some of the largest employers in the state, as well as one of the largest public transportation companies in the Northeast, and I show them how to have success with these underserved populations through the Roadmap to Success program. And then from that, I'm able to help so many people who are coming home from incarceration, homelessness, etc.,
Wow.
or people with disabilities. And if they can't work with us, I have an employer in our network that I could get you plugged in with. And again, it's all from the heart. I don't get paid by these employers to staff them. I'm sure I could. I'm sure I could make
Sure.
actually a lot of money doing it. But again, for me, it's about how do I help the next person get a leg up? And so that's some of the things that has evolved from this thing called the roadmap that started internally, and now we're able to help others through it.
That's incredible. And that is brilliant, Trent. You are brilliant in the way that you put this all together and the way you thought about this. You're an incredible
Thank you.
strategist, in addition to being a great and successful business person, and human. And that's what social capital, is all about. So there's so much, there's such richness in what you just said. It begs the question, obviously, people are going to ask, you have this diverse population. Um, there's a fear, right? Sometimes I think in people,
Definitely,
if
definitely,
we hire people
definitely.
from this community, it's going to be a problem. You've done
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
What's your experience with it? It's obviously mostly successful, right?
It works. It's working. I think that my experience, I think there's a fear from both ends. If we're just being totally honest, right? There's a fear from I don't know this population to there's also a fear from the population and maybe historically things that they've seen as well. And so one,
Hmm.
I try to come in and immediately eradicate the fears for both sides because it definitely exists on both sides. And then I try to help individuals understand on both sides how to be empathetic and understand the other side a little bit more. Because for me, historically, what we've seen is basically we've put someone in a room who speaks Spanish and someone in the room who speaks French, and we told them figure it out. That as just that's how it looks to me, or when I think about it. And so what I'm doing now is I'm coming in as the interpreter, and I'm teaching the person who speaks Spanish how to communicate in French a little, and I'm teaching the person who speaks French how to communicate in Spanish a little, so that the two worlds can actually start to communicate and work well together.
And that ability to understand another person's perspective, right? I mean, it's such a human need and human value. And I want to just backtrack a little bit to your background because
Mhm.
obviously you had to learn a different perspective. You had to learn a new
Yes,
perspective. And one of the
yes.
things that people don't talk about enough, I think, is, we talk about capitalism in business, in society a lot, but we don't talk about it in everyday personal life. And if
Mm-hmm.
the business of America is business. The
Mm-hmm.
idea of America is that you will give value and get value. And I
Yep.
don't know that we're teaching enough of our young people that. And it sounds like you are the poster child for that because you came from a world where you said you didn't really even have a job.
Yep.
And you probably had, for sake of a better word, the wrong perspective on money and
Yep.
where money came from, right?
Yep.
And
100%.
talk a little bit about that and then how you changed that perspective.
So coming up, I didn't really know anything about money, to be honest. I knew how to spend it. I knew that it bought me the things that I wanted. And especially as a 17, 18-year-old kid who's selling drugs, to me in the communities that I grew up in, everyone who had the things that I liked, this is how they were acquiring it. And
Wow.
so I had to do what I tell everyone I work with. If you trust me, I always say to people, I'm gonna help you unlearn all of the things that you were taught that weren't the right ways. Because a lot of times when you grow up in the inner cities, you're taught things that aren't actually the way the rest of the world operates. Same as when you go into prison. So when I had my incarceration experience, I had to adapt to that new setting. And it's a world within a world in which I had to learn that world to be able to survive and better myself and get out. But upon release, now I had to unlearn both of those worlds and relearn how things actually work. And so that's why I'm a huge component of personal development, because through personal development, it opened my eyes up. And one thing I started with was I took a class on finance. I just wanted to learn what money looked like. How's it operate? It changed my whole relationship with money from this thing that I needed to live and survive to actually just being a tool, and a tool that allows me to, as a resource, to essentially buy back my time and to give towards things that I want to give towards. And so it totally changed my relationship with money. The economics class I took started to highlight to me, money doesn't just operate where we're at. We need to look at money on a global scheme and learn what things are taking place internationally and nationally. It just opened me up to just being to learning more about the world and how the world operated. And I took a lot of time, to your point, to learn about, capitalism and to learn about the country I was living in. And I identified quickly that this country was made for the business person. And so why wouldn't I want to get in business, and why wouldn't I want to take advantage of what this was made to do?
My God, that's so incredibly powerful. You could be an ad for our center, and an ad for really prosperity and how to grow it. And you said some such powerful things there. But all of that really, you know, gets down to and drills down to the social aspect of money,
Yes.
the societal value of money, which you then came to learn and realize, um, uh, that it's part of this ecosystem, this
Right.
economic ecosystem. It's not just a thing that you want or for something that you want. It's also about what you give, and
Correct.
you give and you get. So extraordinarily powerful. And you're obviously an amazing learner,
Thank
but you are an
you.
amazing teacher, as
Yes.
well. And so, hats off to you for doing that for so many reasons. And so,
Thank you.
I mean, these are principles and ideas, obviously, that you've discovered, but these are ideas that can be taught, can be learned, and can be duplicated,
Hmm.
throughout the
Hmm.
country, I think. And
Yes.
are
Yes.
do you have aspirations for bringing that throughout the country?
So I do. I'm currently in the midst of, so the Roadmap to Success program is trademark. It's being accredited as a true curriculum, through a lived experience curriculum. I currently do the curriculum inside of Department of Corrections in New York State. Next year we'll be doing it inside of Core Civic facilities, which is one of the largest privately owned institutions, or they operate, institutions privately owned in the country. And so we're expanding our reach in that regard. The program is also going to be on a Devo, which is the tablets for incarcerated individuals, where they
Oh,
do
wow.
free education and learning. And so there's currently about 2 million people incarcerated. My outreach will be to about 1.4 million, or about 70% of the market. So I plan to hopefully be able to teach and impact more and more people who are coming home from incarceration. But then I also have really big aspirations in working with more national companies, in teaching them how to have the successes that we're teaching other companies in New York State. And so I'm a firm believer, in due time, all things happen as they're supposed to. But I can see this perfect storm starting to come together, where, we're having the outreach within the prison system, which is nationwide. Now all we need is one or two first national companies to come and get in bed with us. And then after that, I could see this thing, to your point, being something that is known all across the nation.
Well, I can tell you right now, I'm sure there's going to be more than a few viewers when they see this and hear what you're doing, that are going to be interested in doing that. And you definitely are a perfect part of our community. So hopefully, maybe we can connect you
Thank you.
with some folks as well that want to be involved with you. So hats off to what you're doing. Thank you again so much for what you're doing and for, taking the time to talk about it. And I am sure this will not be the last conversation we have with you. And we look forward to many more as well.
No, Chris, I thank you. I thank you and your team. I thank you. I appreciate the highlight of the work we're doing. I believe the more we share positive stories, the more positive impacts that it will have on others. And so I just want to thank you guys for the recognition and also just for you making some time to connect with me. I truly enjoyed it.
Well, you are very welcome and to be continued, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. We'll
Yes,
talk to you
indeed.
soon, Trent. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Have a great one.
Bye bye.